Mosquitoes. They're more than just annoying pests. Every year, they make millions of people sick. And as the world gets hotter, even more people could become their victims.
The rate at which people become infected with these mosquito-borne diseases depends really strongly on temperature.
As our climate changes, where are mosquitoes going to go? And who will they strike next? They're tiny and have a lifespan of only a few weeks. Yet, mosquitoes are the deadliest animals in the world. Each year, the diseases transmitted by mosquitoes kill more than 1 million people. Hundreds of millions more are infected. The most life-threatening of the diseases is malaria. But mosquitoes also carry Zika virus, West Nile virus, chikungunya, yellow fever, and dengue fever. Today, these diseases are most common in the world's tropical regions, where a warm and humid climate enables many kinds of mosquitoes to thrive. But biologist Erin Mordecai is asking, with average temperatures steadily rising all over the world, what will the mosquito threat look like in the future?
Our concern is that with warming climates, we may see the expansion of mosquito-borne diseases into other areas of the globe that haven't seen these diseases in a long time.
Could people in China, Europe, or the United States once again have to worry about malaria? As those places become warmer, it's entirely possible. That's because air temperature is critically important to mosquitoes. It helps determine both where they can live and how long they can survive. Because they belong to a class of animals strongly affected by environmental temperatures that biologists call ectotherms.
An ectotherm is an animal that doesn't regulate its own body temperature. You and I as mammals are endotherms, so we keep our body within a very tightly defined range of temperatures. Ectotherms are very different. If the temperature outside is 50 degrees, the ectotherm's body is 50 degrees. If the temperature outside is 90 degrees, the ectotherm's body is 90 degrees.
And a mosquito's temperature influences the speed of its metabolism, the set of biochemical processes that drive every stage of its life.
Every step in the mosquito life cycle, from development to biting, to laying eggs, to becoming infected with parasites, to transmitting those parasites to new people, depends on the metabolism of the mosquito, which depends on the temperature.
Scientists have known this for years. But what Erin wanted to know was at which particular temperatures are different kinds of mosquitoes most dangerous. To find answers, she'd have to use not only biology, but also mathematics. She's been interested in both since she was a child.
My dad is a biologist, and he would talk to me about science a lot. One of our tactics for stalling at bedtime was to ask him to tell us about cells, different cellular processes within the body.
But Erin was also fascinated by math, which she discovered was a powerful tool in biology.
What I've learned is that biological systems are really complex. And eventually I realized that there was a huge role for math in the study of biology, and that you could use mathematical models to understand biological systems.
In biology, mathematical models use equations to represent the ways that environmental changes influence living things. For example, the way that changes in temperature affect how long mosquitoes live.
So we can measure this experimentally in the lab, but since we can't possibly measure every single experimental condition, the role of the mathematical model is to help us connect the dots.
Erin's models helped her to answer her question about mosquito-borne diseases. She and her colleagues pored through data from dozens of previous studies and calculated the temperatures at which different species are most likely to make people sick.
So in this case, I'm plotting transmission probability for mosquitoes, and each different colored line is just a different mosquito.
For the Anopheles mosquito, the kind that transmits malaria, Erin calculated that the temperature at which it's most likely to infect people is 78 degrees Fahrenheit.
So what this means when we're thinking about climate change is that any change in climate that brings the temperature closer to that optimum of 78 degrees Fahrenheit more of the time is going to increase the risk of malaria transmission.
But what will happen in places where average temperatures rise well above 78? First, malaria risk could actually go down. Because when it gets a lot hotter than 78, fewer Anopheles mosquitoes survive. But in places where average temperatures rise into the 80s, people will face an increasing threat from a different mosquito. It's called Aedes aegypti, and it carries the virus that causes dengue fever.
That mosquito is already more adapted to warmer temperatures. So it has an optimal temperature of 84 degrees Fahrenheit for transmitting dengue fever. So even at the same time that we see the climate becoming potentially too warm for optimal malaria transmission in some of the warmest places, we might actually see increases in transmission of a different disease by a different mosquito.
Or even increases in several diseases. Because the Aedes aegypti mosquito, in addition to transmitting the virus for dengue fever, also transmits viruses for Zika, chikungunya, and yellow fever.
The message isn't that climate change will make every disease worse in every situation. It's going to drive a lot of uncertainty about where we're going to see different diseases being transmitted.
To reduce that uncertainty, Erin is delving deeper into mosquito biology. In this California nature preserve, she and her students, Johanna Farner and Lisa Cooper, are looking at a species with a mysterious ability to thrive in a variety of climates.
Some water in there.
All right.
They are gathering larvae of the western tree-holed mosquito. It lives in both warm and cool places. Its habitat ranges some 1,500 miles from Southern California to British Columbia.
If there's any mosquito that can adapt to different climates, it's this mosquito.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Erin suspects that the tree-hole mosquito's tolerance of such widely varying temperatures has something to do with its genes.
This is a good sample.
To put that idea to the test, she asks her students and colleagues to capture tree-hole larvae in locations up and down the West Coast. In her lab, once the larvae mature into adult mosquitoes, the researchers put them into tubes, which then go into a water bath. As the water is gradually heated, the team records the temperature at which tree-hole mosquitoes from different regions give up and flop over.
I haven't seen any get knocked down before about 36 Celsius.
Then the next step in that research is to take those mosquitoes with potentially different temperature tolerance and do genetic sequencing to try to understand what are the genes that drive these differences in temperature tolerance. I think we can design the experiments so that they can help us to parameterize the models.
Erin hopes the tree-hole mosquito's genes can provide valuable clues to which mosquitoes will be the most dangerous in a hotter world.
Those would be the mosquitoes that really are going to adapt well to climate change.
The discoveries about mosquitoes that Erin and her fellow scientists are making could enable doctors and public health officials to better prepare for the diseases that climate change may be bringing their way.
I have a 1.5-year-old son, and being a parent has helped me understand what the stakes are in the future and how long our actions are going to play a role into our kids' futures and our grandkids' futures.